Welcome to the kbbreview podcast and this summer special episode dropping right in the middle of August. We've got a cracking whole new season starting at the beginning of September, but today's episode, well, it was just too good, too relevant and too insightful to wait until then. That's because we all know that at the moment the market is at best flat and at worst, well, probably best not talk about it. And that leaves business owners and leaders with a difficult decision. Do you hunker down and wait for it to pass, or do you actively attack the market with initiatives designed to spark it into life? And that's why we're very lucky in this episode to have Stephen Ewer, the CEO of one of the biggest UK suppliers of the industry, Bathroom Brands. I went over to the always impressive showroom at their HQ in Dartford to talk to Stephen, and a very enlightening conversation it was too. Bathroom Brands is, of course, one of the biggest names in the sector and is therefore always a real bellwether for what's happening. And for a company with such a unique relationship with independent retailers, its plans and strategies are always worth examining in detail if you get the chance. And its latest initiatives are more exciting than most as it launches a comprehensive package of products, promotions and price alignments designed with one goal in mind, to actively stimulate the depressed market. Now, this episode is sponsored by Bathroom Brands, but I promise this is a very candid case study of how companies can take a lead and revitalise a market with some clever and creative ideas. So I do really recommend this one. Whether your kitchens or bathrooms, retail or supply, there's something in here for you. So let's hand over to me in Dartford. And here is Stephen Ewer. Welcome back to the podcast, Stephen. Thank you for having us here in Dartford. Always a pleasure to come back to this excellent facility you have here.
Thank you, Andrew. Nice to see you.
And we are sat, what do you call this space?
We are sat in our new design house. So based in here in Dartford, the idea behind the design house is it's a creative space. It's sat in the middle of our showroom, and it's for our teams and interior designers, retailers, etc., to work in a more creative space. So we've been building, as you know, a design team and a creative team over the last few years. And this is a kind of investment for them, if you like, and for the business to enjoy.
And I think anyone who's been here, which lots of people clearly will know what a phenomenal showroom this is. So just to add a little bit of extra spice to it, I think it's such a really interesting development of what you're doing. Right, look, I'm genuinely so pleased that we're doing this today. And when we talked before, I always said the same thing, which is I think Bathroom Brands is such a bellwether company because A, you're British and also you're massive, right? So it's such an indicative company of what's happening in the wider market. And to open up your plans like this, to talk about strategies like this, I think it's great. And I think anyone in the KBB sector, retailers, even kitchen people, will find this kind of insight really interesting. So we've got a lot to talk about. But let's step back a bit, because I think all of the plans that we're going to talk about stem from your interpretation of what's happening in the wider market. So let's start with that. What's your reading of what's going on at the moment? Where do you think we are?
So when we were last together, we did project into 24, and we felt at the time that it would be a period that was more stable than 22 and 23. And that's not where I think we are.
Yeah.
So we started to see a drop-off in the market at the back end of 23, and trading has continued to be tough and arguably got tougher through 24. We all know the macro picture, the high interest rates continuing to feed through on mortgages, slower rates of housing transactions would probably be the two elements I'd pick, which has extended this bottom of the cycle we're in. And this is having a visible effect on our retail customers. So feedback we get regularly is of lower levels of footfall, consumers taking longer to make decisions, higher installation costs eating into product budget, all current challenges across most of our retail partners. So this is the market as we see it, and our role as a brand and a supplier into the market is to decide how we react and how we build this into our medium-term business plan.
So it'd be very easy, I suppose, for any business to just sit back and let the market happen to it. Or at least have an idea that you're waiting for something to happen, whatever that something might be that is out of your control. And I think lots of people thought that might be the election or a new government or that kind of thing. But I think what's interesting is what you're doing now is you're actually saying, well, look, rather than just sitting back and letting it happen to us, we need to come out swinging and invigorate, or do what you can as a big company and a big supplier to invigorate the market rather than just sitting back. So talk to me about the internal train of thought that led to the actual plans that we'll talk about the details of in a minute.
Well, I think the first thing to say is that we revisited our overall business plan. So we have business strategy, we have a medium-term plan, we plan over a 3 to 5 year horizon, and our ambitions remain in place. So, our ambitions are to be internationally recognized as a design-led bathrooms interior company. Design sits alongside customer experience, sustainability. It's at the heart of our strategy. I've used this phrase before. It's really for us about focusing on democratizing design, so making beautiful design bathroom interiors accessible to a greater share of the population. But coming back to the kind of in-year trading environment, we have a certain expectation in terms of volume to support our structure and continue to invest in growth for the future. So the investment, for example, around NPI alone, because bathroom interiors is becoming more and more trend-led, and we cover the full bathroom. In last year, we introduced over 1,000 SKUs. This year, it's not far short of 1,000 SKUs. And you're managing all of that, as well as the display in the showroom estate and all the other investments in the team to drive the business. So we looked at an in-year program of stimulus around price and promotion for our retail customers.
It's interesting because when you look at this plan, and I've got it in front of me here, it reads a bit like a manifesto almost. It is a sort of series of pledges and promises and action points of how you're going to achieve these things. It really is about setting out an agenda for how you think you can help your retailers. So it's not just a list of price reductions and a list of promotions. It's a kind of philosophy almost.
Yeah, so I would assimilate it down if we assimilate it down across the 4 quarters of 24, and then we can maybe look at it in some particular areas. Through 2023, we already had a very high level of focus on price stability. We were desperately preventing ourselves from being drawn into regular price adjustments because we don't think that's supportive to our retail customers. So in Q1, we continued to hold our pricing, and then we targeted selected lines for price reductions. We call it price alignment. And these were targeted to really support buying the bundle from one of our brands to maintain and pull through the volume for our competitors. So we do a lot of benchmarking around pricing, as you would expect. We typically have a pricing strategy to stay in the pack, and then we look for bathroom brands to be selected, based on design and value and quality and reputation.
Well, what you call it's the 3 Ps, promotion, price and products. And price, I think, is obviously a massive part of it because, as you say, there's been enormous volatility in pricing over the past few years. But actually what you're doing is, okay, you've introduced a level of stability to pricing, tick. But what you're doing now is you're introducing a lot of considerable, substantial price reductions across an awful lot of things. So is that about the stimulus idea?
Yeah, it's driven from stimulus and reduced, as you say, probably an average of 15% structural price reductions that we've introduced in Q3 across some key ranges such as shower screens, our leading furniture range, and other brassware ranges. These are permanent price reductions that are achieved through working with the supply chain, taking a view on margin versus volume, but it's really driven by stimulus for our retail customers. That supports our retail customers, and in turn that supports us. Because working with supply chain and driving value and efficiencies through our business, we've made substantial investments in our system infrastructure, and our people enables us to pass those benefits on, those efficiencies, if you like, into the market and maintain a kind of critical mass of volume.
Because in my head, I'm picturing a board meeting where someone's put their hand up and gone, do you know what I think we should do? I think we should reduce our prices by 15%. There must be a bit of a sharp intake of breath when someone says that.
Well, interestingly, that's exactly how the board meeting sometimes goes. And yeah, there are some sharp intakes of breath, but equally there are some challenges that maybe we should be going further in.
I mean, it's a brave strategic choice, I suppose, is the point that I make. Any managing director of any company could just have a sort of steady as she goes, don't rock the boat, let's just keep going. But what you've done is actually taken quite a bold decision by reducing some of these prices and introducing some of the promotions we'll talk about in a minute. It's not an easy decision to make. I wouldn't underestimate it.
No, it's not comfortable when you look at the spreadsheet that if the volume doesn't increase as a result of the price reductions, then you're effectively writing off a few £1 million worth of sales. And that's exactly what you're doing. So there is quite a lot of thinking and, of course, some assumptions and lots of discussions with the customer base and benchmarking and everything else that goes into it.
But fortune favours the brave, I think, in situations like this. As we've said, this is about stimulation. This is about doing something, controlling what you can control and trying to stimulate the market a bit rather than just sitting back and crossing your fingers and hoping it all works out. Let's talk about promotions, because you're famous for promotions anyway. When you have this big sale every year, everyone knows that's coming. But you've introduced you did a big one around your anniversary, and you've got some other ones coming in too. How important are promotions, A, in this whole plan, and B, do they work? I mean, they must work, otherwise you wouldn't do them. But how successful are they when you bring them in? Because presumably these are promotions on top of the reductions you're already doing it.
So during Q2, we ran an additional promotion to our normal calendar, which is a Crosswater 25-year anniversary. And alongside that, we ran a Burlington promotion whereby the consumer received brassware in the bundle free of charge when they bought a Burlington suite. But both those promotions were very well engaged with our retail partners and well received. And both of them were successful stimulus for sales during that period versus the period running up. So that was an example of an additional promotion and stimulus that we used across Q2 to drive higher levels of trading than the underlying market. And then you mentioned we have our national sale, so our autumn national sale. So this will be in its 12th year this year. And the autumn national sale is already fixed in the calendar of many of our customers. So this year, our approach to the autumn national sale has been to go deeper and run the sale slightly longer. So again, just some additional incremental stimulus to the normal sale.
And how important in all this is the conversation with the retailer? It's very easy to pay lip service to, we listen to our retailers, but you clearly are, and you are reacting accordingly. So how important is it for you as a supplier to listen?
I think it's absolutely vital that we listen and understand our customers and understand and are able to put ourselves in the shoes of retailers. There's a lot of dynamics at the moment in the market. Independent retail and showroom represent the majority of our channel to market, around 80%. So understanding what's going on in retail in the here and now, as well as looking at it over a longer horizon, is a critical success factor to both our business and, we believe, to our retail partners.
I think some manufacturers talk to their retailers. I'm just not sure how many of them listen to the responses. And I think it's important that you build your strategy around what your customers are telling you.
Yeah, so we have various forums this year in addition to our normal engagement levels. So we've had lunches with groups of retailers, and we've had, a few weeks ago, we had our summer celebration where we opened our showroom with all our new NPI for the second half of the year, which was a great occasion and time to spend discussing the market, business, and as you say, listening to our retail partners.
Let's move on to the third P. When you say it like that, it sounds weird, which is product. And in a way, product isn't a short-term response to something. Product is much more indicative of your longer-term views and plans. As you say, you always use the word democratizing design, which always sounds like a fabulous title for a coffee table book. And you invested a huge amount of money in your own designers, your own ranges. You do so much more in-house than you ever did before. And that is a very long-term view on establishing Bathroom Brands as a design-led company. And that is clearly right up the alley of your independent retailers as well. And it would be very easy to not do that in a short-term way to tackle a difficult market, but you're clearly very committed to that.
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, our MPI, our new product introduction program, has been invested in as strongly this year as last year, with nearly 1,000 new products coming into the market. So in Burlington, for example, we have a design philosophy where we're introducing eras of design. So this year we're launching our Guild collection, and the Guild collection is based on the era of the 1920s, art and craft. So the design brief is that the collection is sympathetic to that era, but works in modern spaces. And the initial reaction we've had from the market has been tremendous, and we've got very high expectations of that range going forward. And then in Crosswater, we've introduced a new range of showering enclosures. We've got 2 new range, Tambour and Avenue, of furniture. And again, our design philosophy is going beyond the product. It's going to the whole space and getting the whole look. So we're increasingly providing the full bathroom interior solution. and watch this space for further adjacent categories that we're going to bring in to augment that.
Because I've obviously followed this market for 20 years now, and I find it so interesting. It's very easy at the most premium end of the market to do very interesting things, because you know you're not going to sell very many of them, right? But you, as a company, you're a volume company, you've got to shift the units, and it'd be very easy to have very standard products that are very similar to everybody else's, and it just all comes down to who's got the cheapest one. Whereas actually this design focus you've had over the last few years is producing some really interesting stuff that still has very wide appeal, but it's still very distinctive in its own way. And that is a real shift in how volume manufacturers work. You wouldn't necessarily be able to do that if you were the UK office of a European company.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that we have all of our team based here in Dartford in the UK, and we are designing for the UK market. So whilst we have an international ambition, we are informed primarily for the UK market. And yes, we're trying to take mid to high design and make that more accessible through that volume model.
And of course, you can have direct conversations with the people on the shop floor, what the consumers are asking for. That can literally get fed straight back to your designers within minutes.
We can invite them here into the design hub. And
that sort of chain of information, I think, is so important. It has to go up as well as down. This is such an interesting time, and it's going to be really interesting to see what effect this kind of stimulus has on the market. You're leading a pack here, I think, and it's been interesting to see what the people behind you do. What's success look like?
I think there's a number of levels of success. The first would be that the level of engagement that we get from our retail partners, and that we actually, as we did with the 25-year cross-border anniversary sale, as an example, that we see that acting like a true stimulus. But I think it's quite important that that leads to something. It's not a one-off event. And it's quite important that where we are investing in our partners, that we see a commitment and an investment back. As a brand, that's important for us. We have a program we call Winning with the Winners, which is at every level of the market, but it really identifies businesses that are committed to us and that we are committing to. And that provides a level of mutual benefit, loyalty, commitment, longevity. And I think that's important. So it's really a principle of business partnering, rather than we take advantage of a promotion from Crosswater today and a competitor tomorrow. You would expect me to look for that, but I actually do believe that as an industry, and particularly in terms of retail, that we need to be really working closely together. And then the next success measure, I think, as we come out of the bottom of the cycle that we're in and we see some stabilization and regrowth in the market, I expect that to be quite slow, would be to carry momentum through into that period. So maintaining our sales rate and then carrying that momentum into a growth period would be a key success factor for our business.
Well, look, Stephen, thank you so much for giving us this insight, for letting us take a little peek behind your curtain. That sounds weird. And as I say, always great to come to Dartford and see what you're up to here. So thank you so much, and we'll meet up again and see whether you're right or wrong.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.